Let's get motivated with George. Today, I want to just talk about the brutal truth about being an entrepreneur. And there are some things, I get a lot of comments about how, oh, George, I wish I was an entrepreneur. It's such a glamorous kind of life, right? You get up when you want to, you do the things you want to, you go on vacation when you want to. And so there are a lot of myths about being an entrepreneur. And I just want to address that. And I made notes just so I can keep me on track. And so let's jump into it. I don't want to waste your time. So number one is the brutal truth about being an entrepreneur is you're responsible for your own taxes. You have to file your own taxes. And when I used to have a job per se, I look forward to getting money back. Now I'm just thankful that I don't know, but typically we do owe. Okay, and so the perspective is definitely a lot different from us. Looks like the sun is in the way. I'm gonna move that. All right, and that's just the brutal truth. The brutal truth is, man, you just don't want to owe at the end of the year. And if you owe, then how much do you owe? Okay. And so it's just a different perspective. Your health insurance, you have to take care of your own health insurance. All right. Somebody's not going to take care of your health insurance for you. And it's not on discount. You're paying full price. Okay. Vacation. You don't have vacation time. So vacation is pretty much as you earn it. Okay, so if you're dependent on your situation, so it may be years, you may just do like little weekend trips or something like that. Okay, so that business is like a baby, and you want to nurture that baby. Retirement, you have to take care of your own retirement. Yeah, you're gonna pay into Social Security, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna be able to live off of that money, and so you're going to want to have some other sources of income and some other things that you've invested in, for that income. And then disability, disability insurance. No, you don't have disability insurance. Okay, hopefully you'll have an ability, not a disability. Okay, everything relies on you. Even if you have employees, you still have to manage them. And you've got to coach them and direct them. So that's point number one. You're responsible. That's point number one. Number two is how you show up on your job is not going to work on how you show up for your business. So a lot of people drag in the work and you don't work as hard. That won't work in your business. You can't drag into your business because if you do, it's going to pay you like your job. If you show up for your business like you do your job, consistently, motivated, encouraged, inspired, then that business will pay you more than what your job will. So you're going to have to treat it like a job. And you have to show up every day and no time off. Okay. And are you prepared for that? Everybody sees the entrepreneur and they say, oh, it's a glamorous life. Well, there are some benefits. I don't know if I would describe it as being glamorous. It's strategic. You got a plan. All right. So how are you going to show up for your business? And I know for me, sometimes when I worked a job, I kind of slacked off a little bit. Can't slack off in your business. There's no slacking off. Too much slacking off and you'll be out of business. So it helps if you're energetic, if you have a lot of energy and you're not an excuse making person. Because some people, honestly, they make excuses and that's cool. but I'm not sure how that's going to work in a business. You can't make excuses. You got to find solutions. You can't make excuses. When people say, you can't, you got to figure out how you can. So it helps if you're energetic. So when you have a bad month, it's all on you. That's point number 4. So you can't have a bad month. You can't have a bad day. You got to try to make the best and maximize every day. So like, for example, I trained all day. What I'm doing now is what I did all day. And guess what? I said, I'm going to go for me a ride and I'm going to make a video. Why? Because I'm committed to the 30-day challenge. And this should be like day number 4 or day number 5. This video should be day number 5, I think. All right. I think I've already got 4 loaded up. All right. And so this will be video. I don't feel like doing this, but it's not about my feelings. Who cares about my feelings? Who cares? It's all about production. Okay. So you can make excuses or you can be successful in business, but you can't do both. All right. So you've got to manage your emotions. So when things go bad, you can't go with them. You've got to manage your emotions. So you've got to be able to not catastrophize and make things worse than what they are. So you got to put things in perspective. And not only that, you got to focus on the solution and not be so driven by the problem. So being an entrepreneur is almost like a way of life. And you've got to show up. So point number 6 is you got to show up every day at 100%. You got to show up every day, 100%. So I remember when I used to work in the military, we would take an hour and a half, 2-hour lunches. I don't take 2-hour lunches anymore. Sometimes I may not get a lunch. And when the work is available, you got to take advantage of that. You got to take advantage of that. So, and point number 7 is there are no sick days. There are no sick days. You don't get sick days. So some days you may have to work when you're sick. You don't feel well. Well, who's going to open up the shop? Who's going to flip the open sign? So if you got employees, they still got to be managed. And then point number 8 is, and I've alluded to this, is you got to be solution focused and not problem seeking. I think a lot of times we can focus on the problem and we spend a lot of time identifying the problem. Well, you got to find the solution. So you got to be, so yes, you want to identify problems, but you know what? You've got to focus on the solution. You got to find solution to these problems. So what are the solutions? And that's the part you have to work on. And this is really what it takes if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. Now, I've been an entrepreneur for close to 30 years. I've worked for myself. I knew I wasn't going to get to where I wanted to go in corporate America. So guess what? I just became an entrepreneur. Okay. And so I want you to think about that as well. So think about today's time. So think about some of the problems that are around you. So identify some of the problems and find solution to those problems. You're going to have to do the same thing when you have your company. You got to do the same thing as an entrepreneur. You've got to be able to identify problems and find solutions. So let me give you all the points. Let's just do a recap. So a recap is you're responsible for everything. So that's point number 1. Number 2, how you going to show up? Because you can't show up and have bad days. So how are you going to show up on your business? 3 is hopefully you're you're energetic and you take initiative. Okay. Point number 4 is when you have a bad month, it's on you. Point number 5, you've got to manage your emotions. When things go up, you can't go too far up. When things go down, you can't go too far down. You got to stay level-headed so you can think clearly. Point number 6 is you've got to show up every day at 100%. Point number 7, there are no sick days. And I know some of these are redundant, but I think they're great points that you want to consider. And 8 is you want to be solution driven and you want to find the problems, but then you want to solve the problems. That's what entrepreneurs do. They find ways around difficult situations. So when there's situations where, people say, well, there's no way around it, an entrepreneur is going to find a way around it. And some of your greatest companies were organized and started behind a problem. Okay, like look at Uber. Okay, look at Lyft. Look at Turo. These were issues and problems that people ran into, and they just created solutions to solve those problems. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next video. And remember, let's get motivated with George. God bless.